My husband and I have always been great at discussing our hurt feelings and moving forward together with consideration. He's a mental health counselor, and I volunteer at a domestic abuse service, so we're both very comfortable and familiar with using kind language to discuss hard things. I have ADHD, and part of that includes sensory processing issues. My biggest challenge is overwhelming sounds, like if the TV is on and someone is watching on their phone and the dog is barking. It makes me feel like my brain is itchy and I can't scratch it, and it consumes my thoughts. I know I'm better at handling it than I used to be, but I'm not perfect. Sometimes I still need complete quiet to recover. Today, after dropping our son off at school together, we both got back home. The morning had been chaotic and noisy, and the school was busy and stressful too, as there was a fundraiser on the playground today. The moment I sat down, I wrapped myself in a blanket with my dog and started trying to wind down again. Usually, when I do this, my husband is starting work upstairs, but today he started a little later. When he joined me, I said, "I'm just taking a few minutes to calm down because school was crazy," and he said, "Okay." He played on his phone at the same time as clicking the TV on. His phone started playing a comedy video on full volume, while YouTube on the TV started playing a gamer video. He snapped open a can of Coke, chugged it, and burped so loudly. Then, with the remaining little bubbles popping in the can near my ear, and the clashing videos with the applause on the comedy video and the screaming excited gamer, I obviously felt worse, and my sensory issues were not improving because my routine was interrupted. I shook the can to pop the remaining bubbles, lowered the TV volume, and asked him, with frustration in my voice, "Can you please lower your phone volume or go to work or something?" To which he rolled his eyes and said, "I'm not arguing with you," with no intention to do anything about the noise. After about 10 seconds, I said, "Name, please. The noise is too much and I can't calm down." To which he rolled his eyes and tutted, repeated himself, "I'm not getting into an argument with you," and leaned away. Feeling ignored, I got up and went out to the kitchen and got a drink of water, and he followed me with his phone. When he tried to hug me from behind, phone in hand, I took this as him antagonizing me rather than apologetic how he probably meant it, since he had decided to ignore my request for quiet. I shook him off me and walked away again, calling behind me, "Keep rolling your eyes and not listening to me and not arguing with me, and in 5 years, all our stresses will have built up and we'll just get a divorce instead of talking to each other." All of a sudden, he's hurt, and I'm the bad guy, whereas I feel like I was pushed to say something that would grab his attention. I don't think you can act the way he has and expect someone to tolerate you when they've expressed their needs clearly, married or not. So, am I the jerk for jumping to divorce after my needs were ignored? Edit. The bedroom is also the office. He needed that space shortly, so I was in the most appropriate space to take my time to regulate, and I could have done that if my husband had been mindful after I told him what I needed. Anyone with ADHD knows what it's like to be dysregulated, and while I'm not medicated and don't need to be, I implemented my coping strategies as I always do, which is the only course of action. Edit 2. For everyone concerned about his drink, he had finished it. I shook the empty can so that the last few drops would stop popping in the now empty can. He enjoyed the whole can. Also, for those of you who think it's a communication issue, unfortunately, my husband is not telepathic. Bummer, right? So, as soon as you suggest a better way to articulate myself other than using plain language like I already did, I'll take it into consideration. Update. Rather than sit and annoy each other, I went for a walk and to do some errands, yet another strategy I executed to give us time and space. He has since texted me and apologized, explaining that he didn't mean to be antagonistic, as I already knew, and that he didn't understand the gravity of my needs in that moment. I also apologized for tempting fate by bringing up divorce, even though he admitted he knows it's not really something I'm considering. We're going to talk properly later on. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. "I am not getting into an argument with you" might be a good tool in some high-conflict situations where you need to de-escalate. Using it as a reply when your overwhelmed wife asks you to reduce the stress you are causing her is bordering on hurtful, even if not meant that way. You are so much not the jerk here. He is really inconsiderate and not at all listening to you. Comment 2. Not the jerk. He is literally chasing you through the house, blasting his phone and saying, "I'm not arguing with you." What does that even mean? Is it therapy speak for, "I have a right to do anything I want to you, and you do not have the right to get away from me"? I worry that this guy works with clients. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, long time no see, right? Let's get right into the update. The talk we had later that day was more productive than I expected. We sat down at the kitchen table, a neutral space away from the distractions of the living room. He admitted that he had been insensitive and promised to be more mindful of my sensory needs in the future. I acknowledged that my comment about divorce was out of line and reassured him that it wasn't something I was seriously considering. We agreed to work on our communication and to be more attentive to each other's needs. Over the next few days, things seemed to improve. He made an effort to use headphones when watching videos, and I started using a white noise machine to help me focus and calm down when things got too overwhelming. It felt like we were back on track, navigating life's little hiccups as a team. But then, 2 weeks after our initial argument, something happened that neither of us could have anticipated. It was a regular evening. I was curled up on the couch with my dog, reading a book, and he was upstairs in the office finishing up some work. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was immediately on edge. The dog started barking, my heart raced, and the peaceful quiet of the evening shattered. I opened the door to find a police officer standing on our porch. He asked if my husband was home and if he could speak with us both. Confused and worried, I called my husband down. The officer informed us that there had been a serious accusation made against my husband by one of his clients. My husband's face drained of color, and he stammered out that there must be some mistake. The officer didn't give much detail, citing confidentiality, but said that my husband would need to come to the station for questioning. I was in shock. My husband, the mental health counselor, the man I trusted and loved, was being accused of something that seemed completely out of character. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for me to believe him, and I did. Or at least, I wanted to. After he left with the officer, the house was eerily silent. My mind raced with a million thoughts. Could the accusation be true? Had I missed something? Was there a side to my husband I didn't know? I tried to push those thoughts away. This had to be a misunderstanding. The next day, my husband returned home, exhausted and distraught. He explained that the accusation was unfounded, that the client had misunderstood his actions and words during a particularly intense therapy session. He was confident that the truth would come out and that his name would be cleared. I wanted to believe him, but a seed of doubt had been planted in my mind. We tried to return to normal, but the atmosphere in the house had changed. There was a tension between us that hadn't been there before. We were both walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do the wrong thing. The trust that we had built over the years felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. Then, one evening, as we were trying to have a quiet dinner together, my husband's phone rang. It was his lawyer, with news that turned our world upside down. The client had retracted their accusation, admitting to fabricating the story due to personal issues they were dealing with. My husband was in the clear, but the damage was done. The relief I felt was overwhelming, but it was mixed with anger and sadness. Anger at the client for what they had put us through, and sadness for the trust that had been damaged in our relationship. My husband and I looked at each other across the table, both of us on the verge of tears. We knew that we had a long road ahead of us to rebuild what had been broken. But then, in a twist that neither of us could have predicted, my husband reached across the table and took my hand. He told me that he had been offered a job in another state, a fresh start away from the rumors and whispers that had started to spread in our community. It was a chance for us to leave the past behind and to work on our relationship without the shadow of the accusation hanging over us. I was stunned. This was the last thing I expected him to say. A move would mean leaving our friends, my volunteer work, and the life we had built together. But as I looked into his eyes, I realized that this could be the new beginning we needed. We had always been a team, and now more than ever, we needed to stand together. So, we decided to take the leap. We're moving next month, starting over in a new place where we can focus on each other and our family. It's scary and exciting, and I never would have imagined this turn of events just 2 weeks ago. But sometimes, life throws you a curveball, and you just have to roll with it. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Hey, it's super important to set boundaries about noise levels, especially with sensory processing issues. Maybe invest in some noise-canceling headphones for emergencies. Also, a sit-down chat about how serious your sensory overload is might help him understand better. Divorce is a heavy word, but it sounds like it got his attention. Comment 2. Well, that escalated quickly. Mentioning divorce is like dropping a bomb in a pillow fight. Next time, maybe try a code word like Patchley to signal a sensory overload. It's less dramatic and could save you both from a heart attack. Plus, it's a bit of quirky fun, right? Now, for the next story. I, 37-year-old female, have one 8-year-old daughter named Jenny from my ex-boyfriend, who is 36 years old. My ex-boyfriend was immature, and I stayed with him for 3 years, hoping he would grow up. I admit that I made bad choices in men when I was younger. I became pregnant, and 2 months after giving birth, he left. He claimed he couldn't handle being a father. He didn't want any custody, and now pays child support without complaints. My 41-year-old sister has been my biggest supporter. She has a wonderful husband whom she has been dating since high school, and they have 4 kids. When I dated jerks in my teens and 20s, I would run to her whenever they did something stupid or hurtful. She advised me to break up with them, but my younger self always went back. She got frustrated, but still comforted me. I am not proud of it, but I have matured since my daughter was born. A couple of times, she introduced me to some very nice guys. I even went on a few dates, but for some reason, I only felt attracted to rude jerks with bad haircuts. I can't explain why. It still embarrasses me to think about it. My sister and her husband got married young, so they couldn't afford a nice honeymoon. They saved for years and finally booked a 2-week stay at a tropical resort. She is very happy. One of her kids is in college out of state, so she didn't want to burden him with watching the other kids while attending school. Plus, they aren't rich and can't afford a long-term nanny. I agreed to watch the other kids. They're well-behaved, so it's not a big deal to me. I'm happy to do it. After my daughter was born, I went on 1 or 2 dates, but nothing serious. Recently, I met this really nice guy at work. It was actually my sister who introduced him to me. We all work in the same large office building, just different departments. We had shared hobbies and started talking during our breaks. We never spent more than 10 minutes together at a time. He finally asked me on a date. Strangely enough, after about 30 minutes, I couldn't stop sneezing. At first, I thought it was allergy season. We went out a couple more times, and the same thing happened. Once, I accidentally took his jacket home, and my daughter got sick too. I feel stupid for not asking earlier, but he finally mentioned that he has 4 cats who he loves. Both me and my daughter are severely allergic to cats. Even wearing fresh clothes didn't help much. Finally, after a month, I broke up with him. He offered to try different remedies like prescription allergy pills, but I apologized and said, it's better if we go our separate ways. I feel awful, but the experience taught me that even though I enjoyed our time together, I wasn't willing to go through the trouble of researching remedies or putting my daughter in danger. It was best to end it before it got too serious. He seemed sad, but understood. We parted on good terms. My sister seemed upset and didn't say much. A few days ago, I heard her gossiping about me to her coworkers. I had left work early that day and came back to pick up something I had forgotten. While I was there, I decided to walk around my sister's department to say hello and pick up another file. The door to the break room was open, and I overheard a small group of women talking. My sister was ridiculing me for rejecting good men for stupid reasons. She made jokes about me seeking attention and being easy. It's been years since I've done anything like that. I was shocked and hurt. I left quickly and texted her that I won't be babysitting her kids for the vacation. She apologized and begged to talk, but I've been ignoring her. My mom said that what she said was wrong, but it's not fair to ruin her long-awaited second honeymoon. My mom is old and currently battling lung cancer, so she's unable to babysit. Some friends mentioned that my sister had dealt with my exes for a long time, and it was frustrating for her. They suggest I cut her some slack because she has helped me in the past. The honeymoon is in 2 days, and my sister still hasn't found an affordable babysitter. I'm starting to feel bad because she seems desperate and sad. Am I the jerk? TLDR. I offered to babysit my sister's kids for her second honeymoon. Ended a relationship with a guy she introduced me to because of severe allergies to his cats. Sister got upset and gossiped about my past relationships with her coworkers. I took back the babysitting offer. Now, she may not be able to go on her honeymoon. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Well, you now know what she says behind your back. Just because she's your sister, you don't have to forgive her. Wow, she said all that and accused you of being an attention seeker. Her honeymoon sucks. She was such a horrible sister. It's not your issue. Why would she want someone she makes fun of around her children? Comment 2. Not the idiot. Saying you reject good men is forgivable, but slut-shaming you is not. Now you know exactly what your sister thinks about you and that she is willing to talk about you at your workplace. Maybe look for another job away from her because imagine how much mud spreading she's been doing. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. I've had a pretty wild week and there's a lot to unpack, so let's dive in. After I heard my sister talking smack about me, I was pretty set on not babysitting her kids. I mean, who wouldn't be? But then, things got complicated. My mom, despite her health, tried to mediate between us. She reminded me how much my sister had been there for me over the years. I was torn, but I still felt betrayed. 2 days before their trip, my sister showed up at my door, crying. She apologized profusely, saying she was stressed about the trip and took it out on me. She explained that she was worried about leaving her kids and that she didn't mean what she said. I was still hurt, but seeing her like that, it got to me. I agreed to talk, but I didn't make any promises about the babysitting. We sat down and had a heart-to-heart. She admitted that she was wrong and that she'd been under a lot of pressure at work. She also confessed that she was jealous of the freedom I had, even though I'm a single mom. That hit me hard. I never thought my sister, with her seemingly perfect life, would be jealous of me. I decided to give her another chance. I told her I'd watch the kids, but we needed to set some ground rules about respect and boundaries. She agreed, and just like that, the trip was back on. The day they left, my sister hugged me tighter than she ever had before. She whispered a thank you that felt like it carried the weight of all our years together. I waved them off, feeling like maybe this was a new start for us. The first few days with the kids were actually fun. Jenny loved having her cousins over, and they all got along great. I was starting to feel like Super Aunt. But then, the unexpected happened. On the 4th day, I got a call from the school. My niece, the oldest one staying with me, had collapsed during gym class. I rushed over there, my heart in my throat. At the hospital, the doctors ran a bunch of tests. It turned out she had a severe allergic reaction to something she ate at school. I was shocked. We knew she had allergies, but nothing like this had ever happened before. The doctors said it was a miracle I got her there when I did. If I had been even a few minutes later, it could have been much worse. My sister and her husband came rushing back from their trip. The look on her face when she saw her daughter in the hospital bed was something I'll never forget. She was scared, but she was also grateful that I was there when it happened. We spent the next few days in the hospital, waiting for my niece to recover. My sister and I talked a lot during those long hours. We both realized that life was too short to hold grudges or to be petty. We promised to support each other, no matter what. Just when we thought things were settling down, another curveball was thrown our way. My ex, Jenny's dad, showed up out of the blue. He heard about what happened and wanted to see his daughter. I hadn't seen him in years, and I was wary of his sudden appearance. He told me he had been doing a lot of thinking and that leaving Jenny was the biggest mistake of his life. He wanted to be part of her life, to be the father he never was. I was skeptical, to say the least. But Jenny, she was curious about her dad. She wanted to give him a chance. So here I am, with my sister and her family back from their cut-short honeymoon, my niece recovering, and my ex trying to wiggle his way back into our lives. It's a lot to process, and I'm not sure what the future holds. But one thing's for sure, life is full of surprises, and sometimes they come at you all at once. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Hey there, I get that you're hurt by your sister's words, but have you considered why she might be lashing out? Maybe she's dealing with her own insecurities. It's awesome you stepped up in a crisis, but don't forget to set boundaries. How are you and Jenny coping with her dad's return? Comment 2. Girl, you're like a superhero, swooping in to save your niece and handling all that drama. Your sister owes you big time. It's a wild ride, but you're showing Jenny what strength looks like. Keep trusting your gut with your ex. You've got this, Mama Bear. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.